start this, dude. Well, I now call to order this May 6th Friendswood City Council meeting and announce that we have a quorum. Tonight's invocation will be led by Minister Mike Ross of the Church of Christ Friendswood. After Mike prays for us, please remain standing. We'll say the pledges.
Please pray with me. Dear Lord, we come before your throne of mercy this evening with humility and gratitude, praying that your blessings will continue over our community, that your presence of protection and safekeeping for our families. And Lord, we're so grateful for the leadership that we have in our community. We're thankful for the volunteers that step up and serve in different communities and make a difference. And so we pray a special blessing on the leadership here, starting with our mayor and our council. Lord, thank you for Mo and his leadership with all of the staff that make living in Friendswood a real rich blessing for each of us. May we never take these blessings for granted. May we walk shoulder to shoulder to support our neighbors and to lift our community. And may everything we do, Lord, may it be blessed by you. And may we use our gifts and talents in ways that not only bring success, but honor you. So tonight, Father, may your blessings continue. With our gratitude and our humility, we pray. In the name of Christ, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Item 4 is council comments and reports. Council member, Mayor Pro Tem Rocky, for the last time.
Yeah, I want to thank all you for coming to my farewell here. It's the last meeting I get to vote in anger. I do have one more where I get to vote to replace myself. Two things. One, I wanted to say that I wanted to thank Councilwoman Branson and Councilman Griffon for doing a great job at the National Day of Prayer. They both did prayers, and I was very, very proud of y'all. So you did a really good job. And the other thing, and I had notes to do this last month, and I forgot, but I wanted to extend condolences to Brent Aaronworth's family. His uncle passed away. It's been 6 or 7 weeks now. Don Meyerson, who was a long, long time Friendswood resident, an attorney. And when he retired from practicing law, he volunteered his time with the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And his job was to search the deepest, darkest, ugliest corners of the internet and keep track of a lot of the anti-Semitic work that was going on and register it and keep track of it. And he was a terrific guy. And so, Brent, my condolences.
Councilmember Branson.
Well, if you'll indulge me, I have a couple of things. One, I wanted to brag on our CEDC, the Community Economic Development Committee, and we made the paper, thank you, Friendswood Reporter News. Last week was Small Business Week, and in less than 6 weeks, and I want to thank, where's Stephen Ray, Aubrey Harburn, Glenda, Katie, who's not with us because she's home with a brand new baby. City staff stepped up big time. Our chair of CEDC, Susan Azamaikas, came to us with an idea to celebrate small businesses for an entire week. And we only had 6 weeks to go, but the whole committee, which includes Blaze, Kyle, Judy, Pauline, and Andrea, all jumped in and got after it. And we had a marvelous week last week. Many of our council members came and participated. Thank y'all for being there. Many of our members from our community participated. Thank y'all. And I think I've been told it's not a first annual, it's called an inaugural. But we hope to bring that back again, so I just want to thank y'all. And Steve, I'm not sure if I've known you the longest of everybody that's up here, but I think I may have. Yeah, because I remember when you first
The school bond.
were thinking about running. We met when we worked on a school bond together when Ms. Hanks was still superintendent. And then we were working together on Historical Society. So I just want to tell you it's been a pleasure to serve with you. But I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm going to get to keep serving with you. But thank you for your 12 years of service on the council. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hanks.
Well, I want to second that appreciation to Councilman Rocky. I guess I met you even before the bond when you first moved to this community and wanted to volunteer and came to my office and just said, here I am, and gave me your background and said, I'm willing to serve, do whatever, I can do to help the school district and help you. And that's truly appreciative. It's not everyone who does that. So thank you. Also, I don't like Facebook. You all know that. I have a problem with it. As a child advocate, I've had a problem with it for years. But I do appreciate when my husband tells me that you get on, you correct things or give factual information. And so I appreciate that. You're kind of our warrior there. And I do appreciate that. Well, I'm going to thank you tonight for that. So thank you. I learned a lot about the drainage from you and all those hours you put in on the drainage committee. And you're just a smart man. You are a very smart man. And I appreciate that intellectual ability of yours, your problem solving, and your willingness to listen to other points of view before you make your decisions about something. I really appreciate it. And I've been honored to serve with you. And there are other things going on. Mo's going to report about Keep Friendswood Beautiful and the Spring Sparkle that happened. And I'm on the library committee too as a liaison, and we have a gala that we're going to be getting ready to plan in the next few weeks. And so there are a lot of volunteerism. There's a lot of volunteerism in this community, and not just people sitting up here on the board, but in all the different committees, many, many people that serve. And so I appreciate all of them, and thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember
All
Griffon.
right, briefly, the Senior Activity Center is having a celebration of Cinco de Mayo tomorrow for lunch. So if you want to go to the Cinco de Mayo Activity Center, they'll have a mariachi band. And let me think. And Steve, I think last week at the National Day of Prayer, you did your last official Mayor Pro Tem and did the proclamation. The mayor wasn't able to be there, and you did a great job at putting that out. And I also wanted to mention congratulations to Kim Gerard and to David Johnson and to Jason Jones on their election to the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District Board. I look forward to working with y'all to help reduce flooding in Friendswood. And the message that we gave at the National Day of Prayer, Tony Hopkins and I were tasked to pray for our youth and our children, and I think that message can be said here just as well as it can be at the National Day of Prayer. So I'm going to say it. Everywhere we turn today, TV, university campuses, and in the public square, we see misguided youth calling for the destruction of the nation of Israel and the genocide of the Jewish people from the river to the sea. They support evil terrorist organizations, and this anti-Semitism is antithetical to the Judeo-Christian values upon which this nation was founded. We need to condemn anti-Semitism wherever it is, and we just cannot tolerate that in our nation. Everywhere we turn today, every perversion of homosexuality is being pushed on our children. Gender identity, prepubescent gender modification is being applauded as normal. Men competing as women and being allowed to use women's bathrooms and locker rooms held as ordinary and the new standard. This is antithetical to nature and the teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we are charged to protect and defend our children, the very fabric of our future. In Ephesians 1:17 through 19, we were given this prayer. Let us pray this prayer for our children. I pray that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, would give you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, so that you may know what is the hope of his calling, what is the wealth of his glorious inheritance in the saints, and what is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the mighty workings of his strength. In 2 Timothy 3, verses 15 through 17, the Bible teaches us, you have been taught the Holy Scriptures from childhood, and they have given you the wisdom to receive the salvation that comes by trusting in Jesus Christ. All Scripture is inspired by God and is useful to teach us what is true and to make us realize what is wrong in our lives. It corrects us when we are wrong, and it teaches us to do what is right. God uses it to prepare and equip his people to do every good works. We just can't have the youth and our children being exposed to the things that they're being exposed to and expect them to be the leaders of this great country, if we still have a country.
Amen. Councilmember Matranga?
Well, I have a couple myself. One, Steve, thank you very much. I started learning from you when I was on planning and zoning, and we'd come to all these meetings and watch, and you've always done such a great job of trying to do what's best for the citizens of Friendswood. Thank you for that leadership. The second is I look around the room, I go, wow, thanks for all of you for showing up tonight. I really appreciate everyone being here. So thank you for coming to the meeting. The last thing I wanted to say is about a week ago, a little over a week ago, the last weekend in April, the Friendswood Heritage Gardeners had their spring garden tour and market. And I wanted to really thank all the people that were involved in that great event. I think it was very successful. The homeowners that opened up were gracious enough to open up their gardens and their backyards to over 300 people that came through as visitors. And obviously all the volunteers that it takes to pull off events like that. So I wanted to go and thank everybody for that. But the really last thing I wanted to leave you with is actually somebody told it to me while I was standing in front of the Heritage Gardeners Clubhouse on Spreading Oaks. And we were standing there, this is one of their longtime members, and we were standing there looking, we looked over at the Perry House, and there were people, in the front of it, on the side of it, at the little marketplace in front of next to the Perry home. People, friends, neighbors, visitors, they were walking over to the market over at the old junior high under the old oak trees there, and then wandering and looking at the gardens around the Heritage Gardeners. And this person looked at me and said, this is Friendswood to me. And it really hit me. And it's like, you're right. It does give us that small town feel still. So not only am I thanking Heritage Gardeners for all they do for the city of Friendswood, I really want to thank all of them for helping us make it feel at times like a small city. So small town. Thank you.
Councilmember Aaronworth. Thanks, Joe.
First, I want to say thank you, Steve, for the words about Moncla. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I have to write down a lot of things. I can't just go off the cuff here, so I wrote something on Steve. I'd like to extend a heartfelt appreciation to Steve Rocky for his outstanding dedication, tireless service to the city of Friendswood over the past 12 years. Steve holds a special place to me in my journey, as he was the first council member outside of knowing Trish that I first met in 2015. And through his guidance, he kind of helped me navigate through city politics back in 2015, helping me find a place on this dais. His unwavering commitment to our community has made an impact, notably through some of his pivotal roles, helping expand our library, and his invaluable contributions that he continues to do with the historical society that we all see and enjoy. Additionally, his work on the 2019 drainage bonds and his efforts on the subcommittee has been instrumental in helping to shape some of the city's developments in regards to some of our flood issues. Steve's passion for history and his dedication to preserving our city's heritage, coupled with his commitment to fostering a love of learning through the library's expansion, have enriched the lives of countless residents that we all enjoy every day. As we continue to chart the course of our city's growth and development, Steve's leadership and guidance will undoubtedly serve as a beacon, I hope, for others. While Steve transitions from his current role, I'm optimistic that his enduring commitment to these causes will persist and that he'll continue to offer his expertise and support to these projects and initiatives that he's championed so passionately. Thank you, Steve, for your unwavering dedication, and I anticipate the positive impact of your continued involvement in the future.
Thank you.
I want to also congratulate the Drainage District winners. Look forward to working with you all.
Well, Steve, I'll pile on here too, and thank you also. A lot of people don't know that probably 13 or 14 years ago, Steve and I were at a high school swim meet watching our kids swim, and he came over to me and he said, Mike, you know what you should do is you should run for city council. I just looked at him and I said, Steve, I will never run for city council. It's the last thing on my list to do. And you know, it just teaches you never say never. And so I kind of blame you, kind of thank you a little bit for kind of heading me on this path, I guess, because that sort of, you know, was in the back of my mind, and I thought about it a lot. So appreciate you. But you have been sort of a beacon here on city council, and we appreciate all the things that you've taught us all, that all your very clear and concise discussions during these meetings. And we appreciate it. Learned a lot, and it's a little bit daunting for me to know that when you step off tonight, I'll be the senior member on this council. So it's crazy, but time flies and you're having fun. So enjoyed it. We'll have more words probably on the 14th when we actually kick him out of here. But
I'm just wondering who this Steve guy is.
Two other things I wanted to mention. We are proud here in the city of Friendswood that we are the very first sun-safe model city in the state of Texas. Thanks to a partnership with Castle Biosciences and Impact Melanoma, we have sunscreen dispensers all around our parks now. If you want to run outside and grab some sunscreen on your way home, have at it. And I think that's really a positive thing for the community. I know I've already put more sunscreen on in the last few days than I have in the last few years, probably because it's out there and available. And secondly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that tonight, 2 astronauts are going to launch on the Boeing Starliner spacecraft to the space station. So Butch Wilmore, who is almost a Friendswood resident, he lives just over there by Challenger, what do you call it? Challenger Park. He always comes to me and says, when are you guys going to annex my neighborhood? Because we want to be in Friendswood. Tell him, well, that's not possible anymore. But and then Sunita Williams, Sunny Williams is an astronaut classmate of mine. So she's a little long in the tooth to be launching to space, but she's not as old as me. Not as old as me, so she's young. And the last thing I want to mention is very proud of Joey and Letty Brish's son, Julian Brish, who got his appointment to the U.S. Naval Academy today. How about that? Awesome. Just a scant 49 years after I graduated, he will be graduating. So. He is a Friendswoodian. Yeah, I know. What did I say he wasn't?
You said he was my son and Joey's son, but he's also
Friendswoodian. Well, that goes without saying.
And a wonderful violin player.
Wow, I didn't even know that. All right, enough with council comments. Item 5, public comment. In order to comply with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act, the council may not deliberate any item not listed on the agenda. As such, the city council will listen to public comment and may 1, refer the item to city management for further action, or 2, direct staff for the placement of said item on a future agenda. During public comment, the public shall comply with rules of decorum. I have a few cards here. First one, David Allen.
So tonight, I'd like to speak on this. You guys have a copy of this. This is from President Reagan's first cabinet meeting. You know, there was Carter during the 70s, and Reagan was elected in the fall of '80, and so he had new cabinet members. And you can look further this up further with Barbara Honegger. If you look on the second page, Barbara H-O Honegger, like Honegger. Barbara Honegger was the gal that was in that part of the White House making you recording this statement here. Anyway, so the 20th of January is the beginning of the new administration with the president, and this was like the end of February, and he had all the new cabinet members that were new administration, and he went around to each one of them and said, well, how did your first month go, and what do you see as your chief goal? And Barbara Honegger couldn't believe when they got to William Casey, the CIA guy. He says, well, pretty good so far, and we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And she's there, what? I'm sure Reagan just said, okay, next, But in 2012, the Smith-Mundt Act, Smith, M-U-N-D-T, which was passed during World War II because we had agencies going to different countries trying to, mind screw the enemy and stuff like that so we win quicker. But they didn't want that happening here. And so the Smith-Mundt Act it's like 1944, 45, prevented the use of federal money for mind warping the American people. Well, in the fall of 2012, that was the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which basically ended the act, went, and I think it's in the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act of 2013. But so for about 10 years, we've had literally billions of dollars a year telling us that carbon dioxide is bad and we've got to shut down our power plants and not have coal. By the way, coal is essential for massive amounts of steel production, otherwise you're really limited. But of course, China's burning our coal now, and so is India. So it's not in the interest of the planet, it's in the interest of shutting down our economy. But anyway, all this stuff is, and like the ocean level is not rising. Yeah, there may be a few swamps that are sinking, like Venice is built on a swamp, a river estuary, and you got organic matter, it may be sinking, but the islands and New York City and all that stuff, they're not. So as William Casey said, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false apparently was enacted about 10 years ago. So keep your eyes open, head on a swivel, and they're going to be throwing a lot of BS at us. And so stay alert. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Allen. Mike Ross.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it seems like one of the themes tonight is gratitude. A lot of expressions of gratitude, and that's one of the things I wanted to share again, is just my personal and my family gratitude for each of you guys in your service to our community. And for Mo's leadership with great staff here. It's just a great place to be. And it's because of contributions that you helped lead. So thank you very much to each of you for your service in our community. And I hope that Ms. Horner will help keep you out of the ditch.
She does.
And secondly, I was here about a year ago and I was whining about waste management, urging the city council to hold them accountable. They need to do a better job. They're leaving trash in the street. And I was confronting them and ordering them to pick up trash. And anyway, my whining, I don't think accomplished anything. So I started leaving greenbacks on my bins. And that has made a big difference. They now carry my trash can up to the house. And I get a honk on the horn from the driver. And I think they love our street. And they're keeping the trash out of the street and doing a good job. And so anyway, I've learned that whining's not as successful as, taking the higher ground, right? Anyway, thank you so much for what all you do to contribute to a great life in Friendswood. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Mike. David Johnson. David L. Johnson. Hey, sir. Multiple Johnsons.
Arkansas, really. First of all, Mr. Mayor, council members, city attorney, city manager, city secretary, thank you for allowing us to speak. I moved down here in 1994 after a career change, going from working for the civil engineering department at Brown & Root to becoming a corporate pilot. And in my prior career, I was kind of a big fish in a big pond. I moved down here and I was a little fish in a little pond. after last weekend, I would say I'm still a little fish, but I think the pond's gotten a little bigger. First of all, I'd like to thank my family, Linda, my wife of 43 years, Chris and his twin brother, Matt, Blair, Chris's wife, and my daughter, Patty, and all their kids were out there with megaphones, which Don Johnson took away from them because apparently that's against the law. So they had to get signs up. Anyway, I just want to thank my family. I'd also like to thank my running partners, Jason and Kim, Rusty. I want to thank y'all, and I want to thank everybody that supported us. I'd like to congratulate Kevin Holland on being a formidable opponent. He ran an awesome campaign. I learned a lot from him. And I'd like to thank all the citizens for coming out and voting, especially the ones that voted for me, and the citizens in League City that are part of the district. I never thought I'd be, I told the mayor coming in, be careful what you pray for. Anyway, the last thing I'd like to say is that we're passionate. All of us are passionate. I'm passionate. And sometimes we get a little over passionate. I'd like to say that I don't know what happens in Michigan or other states, but when you call somebody a liar here in Texas, those are fighting words. And I just want to say I'm going to overlook it because I know that they're passionate about what they do, and they wouldn't be that way if they didn't care. And so what I'd like to do is ask y'all for your help, support, advice, and counsel. I mean that sincerely. I say these words humbly. Mike, I'll tell you this. I had some pastors one time coming out of Hobby. I got just over Galveston, over Shoals, and they said, hey, there's a problem. And I said, what's the problem? They said, well, you got a problem back here. Well, it turned out that the engine cowling on that King Air had come up. And sometimes us pilots are too close to the trees to see, too close to the forest to see the trees. Thank God I listened to them, because sure enough, it was loose. It could have come up and taken the tail out. So we went back to Hobby. I just would encourage y'all to listen to the people in the bigger pond. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And congratulations.
Thank you.
All three of you. Let's see here. Catherine Hale.
Hi, my name is Catherine Hale, and I live at 902 Applewood, and like Mr. Aaronwood, I have to write things down too. So I will say first that 30 years ago, before any of you were here, I was in this audience, and a city council member called a neighbor and said, you all need to get up here before city council because the city is trying to put a thoroughfare behind your house and they're trying to open up Castlewood. You need to show up at the meeting and speak, and we did. We were told we needed to form a committee from all areas of Friendswood, and we did that too. We had to have a member of planning zoning. We did that too. His name is Mr. Bill Finger, and some of you all may know him. His advice was not to talk so much about crime and children and safety, etc. He said that no one here will vote on that. He said you need facts and you need figures. So we did. We talked to, excuse me, I lost my point. We talked to FEMA, EPA, Texas Railroad Commission, TxDOT, and HGAC. We copied maps and deeds and plats from League City, Pearland, and Friendswood, and then we even talked to a representative from Phillips Petroleum. In case y'all didn't know, I have a multi-pipeline corridor right behind my house. It's a very important thing for us. We presented that information, and the thoroughfare map, which at that time was called Brittany Bay, was changed. And most importantly for our neighborhood, Wilderness Trails, they removed access to Castlewood. I still have all those boxes and all that paperwork if you all want to see it. Now, the new people came on council. It came up again. Same facts, same arguments for, and same arguments against. Facts and figures. This was a bond election, and that was voted down by the citizens of Friendswood. and now it's back again. We see a plan for what's now called Friendswood Parkway. Once again, we're going to have access to Castlewood, opening the parkway traffic from Greenbrier to Greenbrier, Sunset, and 518, right down the middle of Wilderness Trails. This time, we didn't get to form a committee. We didn't get to vote. We were being told they're going to use the TERS. Others here will probably talk about this tonight and describe it better than I will. Something about it's used in a blighted area. It's not a blighted area. I don't have that many trees anymore, so I can actually see multi-million-dollar homes from my back window now. And something about funding. It wouldn't be built if it wasn't for funding. HGAC, I know, is right now having a corridor study, and I know Sally Branson and Mr. Kabiri are part of the Thoroughfare Committee on HGAC, where they talk about funding. Hold on. Can I speak one more minute? Just almost done. This is a wonderful idea. We don't have any facts or figures about this, about bridges, pipelines, or exactly what Mr. Tanis or even Mr. Karam have planned. The only thing we can see is access to Castlewood. Mr. Tanis, I'm not trying to stop your neighborhood. I'm trying to stop the city. We don't see facts. We don't see figures. But what we would see is a devaluation of our neighborhood. I'm asking for the removal of the access to Castlewood or an emergency gate put in place, as you all will be discussing with D.R. Horton's Friendswood Trails, where they're talking about an emergency gate. I think those facts and figures would increase the value of Mr. Tanos' property and keep the established value of Wilderness Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Hale. Randy Hale.
Hello, Mayor and Council, everybody else. I'm Randy Hale, and we live in 902 Applewood here in Friendswood. I'm going to separate the issue of keeping the dead end at Castlewood closed completely from the TERS, and I'll speak on that public hearing a bit later. But basically, some months back, the subject of keeping the Castlewood dead end came up, and discussions concerning developing the 40 acres now known as the States of Wilderness Trail. And there's 2 points that seem to be the basis for deciding to open that dead end that I keep hearing. One, it's always been intended to be open. And two, the latest reason given is for the safety of the resident of the new subdivision in case Wilderness Trail becomes impassable, so that you can get emergency vehicles down there. People down at Creekwood have been there for a while without that, but okay, I can accept that. As to the dead end, I always intended to be open. That's more of an opinion than a fact, at least as far as I can find. Just like the dead end of Friendswood Lakes at the HOA playground and pool was always intended to connect to something, it appears, but that changed too. How many things that were always intended to be a certain way have been changed or altered by vote of this city council? And that, I'd say it's hundreds at least, I'm sure. When it comes to doing what's best for the city or neighborhoods, there's no such thing as always intended to be. The decision of what's best is up to the current council, even if the law changes needed to fix it. And I don't think community pool and kids playgrounds was there when that dead end was built. Safety issue is an even easier fix. And I'm not gonna read everything I wrote here. I'm just gonna sum it up and say there's another new neighborhood, Friendswood Lakes, I believe it is, that's gonna connect to Sun Meadow, or could connect through Sun Meadow. P&Z has said y'all can have an emergency gate there. We don't need to open that for traffic through that neighborhood. I ask that you take a hard look. If you haven't driven down there at the dead end by my house, don't just look at that. Look at the whole street. It's a small residential street that branches off all through that neighborhood. The additional traffic would not be good for anybody back there. Some of you have said, yeah, I've been back there, and I would definitely vote against doing that. I hope that hasn't changed. I'd like to see when this issue does come up that you would not open it up. And again, If it needs an access, by all means, emergency gates, wonderful. It keeps the traffic away from that pool, away from that playground, and all those little kids on their bicycles that fly through there. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Cheney.
Glad I'm here for you. Hello, Deborah Cheney. I live at 1008 Applewood Drive. I'm the president of the HOA currently, and I know that it's been talked about. This has been in the plan for a long, long time. But if something is not good, then I think we should change the plan. The homes on Castlewood, if you have one car parked in the street, two cars going in different directions have to wait. One has to wait for the other, to go. And so I really think that opening up Castlewood Drive is going to make the traffic on Castlewood very bad. And it's not going to be quick. And there are people right now who drive down Castlewood who live in the neighborhood much too fast. And I can just imagine if we open it up to a 4-lane highway, people from the Friendswood Parkway coming down into the neighborhood, into the new neighborhood, and then coming down Castlewood as a shortcut. I don't think the new neighborhood is going to appreciate that. Also, being exposed to Castlewood Drive or coming into the new neighborhood through Castlewood Drive, I don't believe is going to be desirable either. There is a safety issue and there is a traffic issue. And we don't want our pool, the residents of Wilderness Trails, do not want our kids or our pool or the playground exposed to Friendswood Parkway. It's a safety issue. You can grab a kid, go down, take off. And so I would ask that the city council seriously, if you have not driven down Castlewood, to please drive down the street and see what happens when there are cars parked on the side, on the street, and how difficult it is to pass. If there are two cars parked opposite each other, a fire truck cannot get down that street. Okay, so I think it's very, very important that we keep the street blocked off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Melody Gerland.
Hello, Melody Garland. I'm at 1012 Applewood. And I just want to add to what the rest of the residents are saying. It is a concern for the safety of the children, whether it's the small children or the high schoolers that are walking down that street. As a realtor as well, I'm concerned about the negative effect it's going to have on property values in our neighborhood. When you open that up, it could be a real detriment to, already with losing the trees is one thing, but we've known that that could always happen. But as far as opening Castlewood, I just see that being a real problem with the safety of, with the neighborhood pool being right there, with the community park, and I see it just being, could be a real serious issue with the traffic, and that's why we had to do what we did as far as the front of the neighborhood during football games, because you couldn't get through there, as far as not parking on both sides of the street. And I just don't see how this is going to make this any better, and I just think it's going to contribute to a lot more traffic trying to cut through our neighborhood, and we would really appreciate y'all considering that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Wilson.
Hello. Yeah, Jeff Wilson, and I've lived on Castlewood for over 20 years now, and I love it. That's the reason I moved to Friendswood. Love the trees back there, and go out there and walk and see the animals, and I just see opening up Castlewood all the way through there, being just like the previous speakers have said. It's just going to be, I think, dangerous. You know, there's always people walking down the street, kids, families walking their dogs, and I just can't see how it would be safe. I mean, maybe an alternate would be for Falling Leaf to be the route. I mean, the street is a lot wider, or not wider right now, but it could be. But yeah, maybe consider the emergency gate at the end of Castlewood. But to make it a through street, I just can't see that being beneficial. That's pretty much what I had to say.
Thank you, sir. Item 6, committees or special reports. 6A, receive the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee annual report. We have this annual report in our backup material. There's no presentation. I would just like to thank our members of the committee for their service. Dr. Strand, Dr. Coleman, our animal control supervisor, Robert Lee, Margaret Pickle, and Captain Douglas Lauersdorf's our PD rep to the board. So thank you all for them, for their service. And it's great work going on out there at our animal control. All right. Item 7, zone classification change from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial in the 1900 block of West Parkwood Avenue. It is I have to document this. It is 6:13, and I now call to order this public hearing regarding a request for a zone classification change located in the 1900 block of West Parkwood Avenue, being a 5.6761 acre tract of land, more or less, out of the lot 14 of Burgess subdivision, a subdivision in Galveston County, Texas, according to the map or plat thereof recorded in volume 119, page 14 of the map records of Galveston County, Texas, to change from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of giving all interested persons the right to express their views regarding this item. Everyone desiring to be a part of this hearing should have completed the public hearing comment card in the foyer and submitted it to the city secretary. Each participant shall give his or her name and address in order to provide a proper record of this hearing. Rules allow each person 5 minutes to present information. However, I encourage everyone to be as brief and to the point as possible. I'd now like to request staff summarize the subject of this hearing. Aubrey Harbin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So just a little explanation of the property and the location. It's a triangle piece that actually fronts West Parkwood Avenue, close to Windsong Lane. The future land use map does identify the property being developed with a retail or commercial use. So this request is to change from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial. The Planning and Zoning Commission held their meeting on April 11th, and following their public hearing, voted on a motion of 7-0 to approve the requested zone change. There were a few residents, including one neighbor to the rear, that expressed concerns about traffic on Windsong. But there was clarification that this property would gain access from 528.
Thank you, Aubrey. All right, there being no one desiring to speak on this item, I now close this public hearing. Move on to 7B. We now move to consider an ordinance regarding a proposed zone classification change located in the 1900 block of West Parkwood Avenue, being a 5.6761 acre tract of land, more or less, out of Lot 14 of Burgess subdivision, a subdivision in Galveston County, Texas, according to the map or plat thereof recorded in volume 119, page 14 of the map records of Galveston County, Texas, to change from single-family residential to neighborhood commercial.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Rocky.
And yeah, I know you guys probably heard me say the same thing before, but on several other developments. But, you know, we are a city of homeowners. That's the basis of our community. And I believe that if you are a homeowner, you have a responsibility when you purchased your property or when you use your property to understand what can happen to the property surrounding you. A lot of times we see houses get developed and then behind them is a piece of land that has always been zoned commercial. And maybe 10 years goes by and then suddenly somebody decides to build commercial on it. And the residents are concerned and upset because they're used to there not being anything there. And but in the case where somebody's done their due diligence and they've bought a piece of property and they're using their piece of property and they've said, what's going to go on behind my house? And it's been zoned residential. They can take that into account and say, all right, well, there might be houses back there someday. To change the zoning to commercial, I believe is unfair to the homeowners. They did their due diligence. They understood that what might be there was houses. And now we're going to shift the goalpost here. And so I've made this argument before, and there's several developments that are built, even though I voted against them, but I will be voting against this one.
I have a few comments.
Councilmember Matranga.
Aubrey, I'd just ask a couple questions to make sure that I understand the facts. This property predominantly is along FM 528, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it backs up to some of the homes on, remind me of the street right behind there.
Winsong.
Winsong, thank
Yes.
you. Drew a blank for a second. But between those houses that are on Winsong and this property, if I remember correctly, I went out there, I looked at it. It's like a 50-foot, I think there's a 50-foot drainage easement that abuts those homes, and then there's like an 80-foot pipeline easement. So the closest anybody could build, I mean, it's even further than 130 feet, correct?
The pipeline easement is there. I'm not sure about the drainage.
You sure? Okay.
The pipeline is a pretty significant one.
Okay.
But regardless, the commercial site plan, our zoning regulations would be required. So the 8-foot fence, the trees, and the landscape buffer would be required as well.
But they still couldn't cross the build on top of the pipeline?
Can't build on the top of the pipeline, no.
Okay, I was pretty sure when this came up for P&Z as the liaison to P&Z that there was that, I thought there was a 50-foot. But I could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. So, but regardless, it's definitely no closer than the 80-foot easement. At least that's what it showed on the drawing of the pipelines. So it's quite a bit of distance, and you're saying there's also a fence and some screening, landscaping that would go into place.
Yeah.
Okay, and as you said, there is no entrance back to Winsong. It's all back to 528, just
Yes,
so
sir.
I get it. Okay, well, after listening to P&Z debate this and discuss this and me looking at it and me going out to the property, this to me, you've got a homeowner that's trying to do something with their property. Who would want to live there as a single family residence? I couldn't see anybody doing that where it's located, so I'm going to be in favor of this. But thank you for clarifying that.
Councilmember Griffon.
Aubrey, does it fit into the future land use map for this particular tract?
Yes.
And does the property owner have any idea what they want to do with the property at this time? They just want to change it from SFR to?
Yeah, the agent was the realtor and
Okay.
trying to sell the property, just changing it to commercial to sell.
So if they change it to commercial, there's also setbacks and there's also height restrictions against single-family residential properties.
sir.
And P&Z unanimously adopted this?
Yeah, and the zoning district requested is neighborhood commercial, which is a little more restrictive than CSC, our other broadest commercial district.
I was at the P&Z meeting that evening, so I think I'm going to support this too. This looks good to me.
Yeah, I'm also in favor of this. We have a future land use map for this reason, so that people can realize what's coming, what the planned uses in the city are. And sorry, Steve, but 528 needs to develop commercially, and I know there are some residents that still live on 528, but that's crazy to me, but to each his own. But the properties that want to develop commercially, I think we need to follow our future land use map. So you guys say something? Councilmember Hanks?
So, Aubrey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when I first started all of this, we were talking about the land use map and the zoning and all that, you had said that early Friendswood, most everything was single-family residential. And so if it was a landowner that had held the land for many years, chances are it was single-family residential. And now we have a 6-lane or however many lanes with the turn lane that 528 is that goes through there. So it does change things since 40 years ago when the maps were first drawn. So I'm going to pass this too, or vote for this as well.
Anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? 6-1. All right. Item 8, public hearing. It is now 6:22, and I call to order this public hearing regarding the creation of a tax increment reinvestment zone and its benefits to the city and to the property in the proposed zone, being approximately 326 acres of land generally located along FM 528 West Parkwood Avenue at the intersection of Friendswood Parkway, extending northwest to the city limit of Friendswood and southwest of Baker Road, and also including 3 of the 4 corner tracks at the intersection of FM 528 West Parkwood Avenue and Friendswood Parkway, wholly located within Galveston County and the corporate limits of the city of Friendswood. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of giving all interested persons the right to express their views regarding 1, the inclusion of property within the zone, 2, the creation of the zone, 3, the boundaries of the zone, and or 4, the concept of tax increment financing on the creation of the zone and its benefits to the city and to the property in the proposed zone. Public hearing rules remain the same as previously noted. I now ask that staff summarize the subject of this public hearing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As you know, this is the first of 2 public hearings for the tax increment reinvestment zone number 2. There will be a second one on June 3rd, our next city council meeting, or following the next special council meeting. This is for the creation of TERS number 2 to extend not only Friendswood Parkway, but to extend utilities, both water and sewer, to the region of the city that currently lacks significant infrastructure. We have included a number of parcels within that 326 acres. A number of those property owners within the parcels are actively working with the city on future developments, both single family as well as commercial office. There are some property owners or some properties included within the TERS that have not shown interest in being included. However, regardless of what transpires, this will in no way, shape, or form impact a landowner one way or the other if they don't want to move forward with the development of their property. It doesn't add an additional burden. It doesn't require an additional tax. All it simply does is allow the value that's ultimately put on those properties to go support the infrastructure that's needed for the area that will serve these properties.
Thank you. All right, I have a number of cards. David Johnson.
Thank you. When I first moved in here years ago, it was a bedroom community, and I was really anxious to have commercial development to spread the tax base. Long time ago, far, far away, I was a much younger man, and a guy named Jeff Payson, who was a friend of my father's, and my brother-in-law, Sam Yeager, worked for him when he was the president of General Homes. Jeff hired me to, I was a general contractor at the time. He hired me to come down and build a building for him on your branch. And I did. My father was an engineer with offices in 8 states, very successful, all the disciplines of engineering. And I was a builder. I did a lot of industrial work. One of the complaints I had was, we don't need another retail church. Sorry, Lord. because they don't pay any tax. And I flew for a preacher outside of off the airport there in Tomball that had a nice Hawker airplane that I would take him to Beaumont and other places for a revival. And he had a helicopter to go around to the parishes to pick up the take. And he had a Gulfstream and Intercontinental because the runway was too short at Hooks. That's kind of the extreme. But having said that, I'm not anti-development. I think one of the things we have here is so precious. We raised our 3 kids here. 5 out of my 7 grandchildren are being raised here. We have something special here. We got out of Houston, which, believe me, I grew up there. It's not the same place I grew up. We have a special place here. And I think that we need to be real careful about what we do and how we do it. I think we need to keep Friendswood like Friendswood. I think that I haven't studied the TERS. I'm not real good at doing math in public. I can figure fuel in my head. You probably can too, Mayor. But it looks like a bad deal for me. I'm a businessman. I think the 5-acre deal makes more sense because you're going to get taxes off whatever they develop. What I've heard is we'll get some tax, but it's going to be probably long after I'm dead. And I have a personal stake. My son Chris and Blair built a beautiful house there. And I'd be a liar if I didn't tell you I wasn't partial to being against it. And so I'm torn, and I have to say I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I am pro-business. I think we do need the tax base. I just think it's a bad deal for the city. And I hope that you all will listen to the homeowners and the business owners, and maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a compromise. You know, Mo, you and I don't know each other very well. You're pretty much working yourself out of a job here because I think Friendswood's about 95% developed, if I'm not mistaken. So I like business. I like the developers, but I think we need to listen to the homeowners. And I appreciate y'all's time and your consideration. I have all the respect, and believe me, I wouldn't trade places with y'all because you're not going to make everybody happy, but that's what happens when you're a leader. So I'm going to come out and say I wish that y'all would vote against this. I don't think it's a good deal. I think we need to get Donald Trump down here to sit in a room with Mr. Tanos, and I haven't had the pleasure to meet him, but I think we need to strike a harder deal. I think we need to strike a better deal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. James McKnight.
James McKnight, and talking about the traffic issues and safety on Castlewood. I live at 1412 Castlewood for 21 years. 4 houses from the intersection of Applewood, right there at the community pool. Right now at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning with the high school people coming back and forth, main drag. Safety is an issue right now. And there's cars parked in the streets, and that causes more problems. And people walk. I walk my dog. Used to in the field where there were trees. No more trees. But everybody knows my dog JoJo. They really don't know me. But it's been a good 21 years. I've appreciated living in Friendswood. And I don't see any good additional traffic and safety issues on Castlewood. That's just my little 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Daryl Wisniewski.
Thank you for the time. I guess we have concerns on it too, and first of all, I completely understand, progress from the community. And so I see the need for the road and all, I do. And that's not really my rub for being up here right now. I don't guess we have a slide or anything to put up there of the properties that are all concerned by this taxation, because on our particular piece there is one of my questions here. It showed we had a drawing there, and it really took in the whole 62 acres, not just my corner there. There's this drawing, but then the other side of the proposed road, just a little bitty strip took in. So why was our property included? Okay, let's see here. Okay, you see the outline.
So 528's on the far right-hand side of the screen, going from the bottom of the page up.
With a pointer, I mean, what we're talking about is this piece here, this whole section right here.
Correct.
Yeah, which is, oh, okay.
This one.
Okay, we're talking about this piece.
Mr. Wojcicki, could you?
Could you step back up to the microphone, sir? We can't hear you.
Carol, they want you to step to the microphone.
Yeah. Go on. Anyway, the piece of property right there. So we're outlined in this whole area here, which takes in all the property. And then if you look down here, we're just taking this little narrow piece right here is included in it on the other side of the proposed road. And I'm trying to figure out why all this is part of it. And the reason I bring this up right here, because I just got to say, the first proposal to us on this property was for development, and it was brought to us with proposing, I guess, suggesting that there would be a bond election of some sort to fund the development of the property I just outlined. Well, and we did listen, and I think there was two, maybe a third meeting regarding that, and we did listen, and we're still all ears, I guess, until then we were presented with an item right here, capital commitment agreement, where it was said that we would have to sign our property over to the developer, Lewis, back here, and it says it right in here. And I had a lawyer, look at it, and then it was also said that in this article right here that he would have the right. I would have to sign my property over for this development to be done of this bond election to fund it, and that he would have the rights to reassign my property after I signed it to him. And it says it in here, and this is what sired us, Linda and I, on the whole project. We just said we aborted. Said this can't see where this makes any good for us. We're all for Friendswood, and we understand that road is coming in eventually, whether it's in my lifetime or our children's. We know it's coming in. We know it's necessary, and I really do feel for the homeowners that were affected by there. I feel for the homeowners that have land bought 5 acres that build a new home and already have it started and all of a sudden they come back to their property one day and the whole 40 acres is cleared. There's not a twig standing on it, and because of this development project by Lewis, and so we feel for those folks too and all this, but still it doesn't have anything to do with the road. We know it needs to come in, but I just need to know why the whole piece of property, ours. Because it was so much emphasis put on it at the beginning to develop that whole piece of land, and now why are we including this taxation after we've declined it, and now all of a sudden it's included in that whole piece of the increment taxation suggestion. So I guess that's.
Mr. Wisniewski, the property is included because it's benefiting from the infrastructure that's being extended to serve not only your tract, but all those others that are included. There's no additional tax burden being placed on this property. The tax increment reinvestment zone doesn't add a layer of taxes to your property. Your tax rate's going to remain the same, and it's going to be taxed the exact same.
Why not take the other side of the road too, other than just that corner?
It takes in the Boone property right here in the corner as well. That's included, as well as the Beau Faisal tract.
but I'm talking about, I like to do this thing, right here. You know, there's a big gap right there, and of course you're taking all this in right here, which is ours, and this right here is
We can look at expanding the boundaries if you're suggesting that. We can look at that.
but it didn't make sense to me. I'm just trying to make sure there's not still further reason to take this property in for some reason down the line, because there was a tremendous amount of emphasis put on it being developed for the infrastructure to be financed and all too through a bond election, and we're not interested in it. And so anyway, that's just my concern again. The biggest thing was why all this and not all this right here. And just wanted just to let everybody know that how we're really disappointed that this was presented to us right here, to where we would pretty much, we would sign our property over to the developer, and then he could take it and reassign it. And I don't see where that would be good for anybody, any property owner.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris Johnson.
Mayor, members of council, thank you for allowing us to speak. If you leave the map up, I listened to Mr. Rocky talking about understanding what's going to happen around your property. I came after the bond election in November of 2019, where the citizens of Friendswood declined to spend public money on the expansion of Friendswood Parkway. I got real interested in it because I was buying property on Wilderness Trail. And I did what Mr. Rocky suggested you need to do as a homeowner, is figure out what information was available, because I heard you, Mayor, say that this road is coming through. It's been on the books. I got to tell you, I went to look to where I could find it on the books, and the best I could find was a March 5th, 2018 Master Thoroughfare Plan, which showed this road taking a hard left way before it ever got to Wilderness Trail, which is not the plan now. So we did exactly what Mr. Rocky asked us to do and try to figure it out, only to get blindsided in September of 2023 to find out that the road is now taking a hard left turn at Wilderness Trail and a hard right turn at my property to run all the way up to Mr. Karam's property. So we did the work to try to figure it out, and we went to the publicly available information that the city had provided on the Master Thoroughfare Plan, and we relied on it, only to find out that it's not going to be that way. And not only is it not going to be that way, the city is willing to use its taxing authority, delegate its taxing authority to reimburse a developer to do it. It doesn't sit right with us. The idea that you're going to use your biggest responsibility, which is taxing power, to push this road through in a place that you never told anybody it was going to be. This TERS idea, it's a made-up idea. This idea that this is a blighted area, that it won't otherwise develop without your support and our tax dollars, is false. It's not true. I know that Mr. Tanos is a good friend of the city. I know that he has put together many wonderful projects. I do not oppose his development in our neighborhood. Half-acre lots is wonderful, but the city has decided somewhere along the line that it must have this road, and it seems to be willing to bend or change the rules to get it there. And I tell you, I never prayed so hard for anything than when Mr. Ross said leadership. I prayed as hard as I could in that moment for your leadership, because there's a better way to do this. You don't have to do giveaways. You don't have to ignore your rules. Your planning and zoning ordinance says that you're going to, on a major thoroughfare, that you're going to follow the alignment and the classification that's listed in the major thoroughfare plan. In 2022, you guys voted, this council voted to change the name of Friendswood Lakes to Friendswood Parkway, and it still followed that same path. I got the map right here. We rely on these things. The planning that you do, we rely on that and making decisions on where we're going to make our investment in this community. You cannot take it away this way. You can't volunteer to give public dollars away because you want a road so bad. It doesn't make any sense. This 311 of the tax code requires that this area won't otherwise develop but for these public dollars. Nobody can credibly say that this area will not develop without your help. No one can credibly say that. Those lots that Mr. Tanos has got over there, they're all spoken for, he says, for $500,000 or more. People have a desire to move into that area. I get it. I understand the reasons for the road. We made decisions about where to build our property based on the publicly available information and the decisions that you had already made. In February, we came before, I sat here and I watched this board approve a corridor study to determine where that road should go. But here we are already talking about a public finance vehicle to finance expansion of the parkway when you guys haven't figured out where it's going to go. I pray that this council will step up. Mr. Kuberi, I pray that you will step up and you will guide this city into a solution that makes more sense, that you will choose not to ignore your previous decisions. You will choose to make a better plan, that you will choose not to avoid your own ordinances and your own rules. Lastly, I'll say this. It's pretty upsetting because I've come with my neighbors. We will be the most affected by this road. We are the hash-marked area out of this map. So even though the burden of this is going to fall on us, we stand to receive none of the public dollars that they're asking you to give to these developers. Think about that. We will bear the biggest burden, and we will not have the say or the benefit. You can do better than this. I know that you can.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you a question. I just want to make sure I understand. Mr. Johnson, if you could stand up, I'd just like to get a clarification from you. So, as you've stated, I think, and I've written in my notes here, you're opposed to the TERS, you're opposed to the building of the subdivision, it sounds like, and you're opposed to the routing of the road, and maybe even that you are not included in the TERS.
No, sir.
Okay.
But I can clarify for you.
Please.
Sure. I do not oppose Mr. Tano's development. I think that his development that has estate lots is consistent with the area of Wilderness Trail. And I am like my father. Anybody that tells you no development is not balancing the interests of private property owners and the public good, which I understand this board has to do.
So the three things you're opposed to are the TERS in general, the routing of the road, and then also a subset of not being included in the TERS.
My objection to this is the ordinances and the planning that you've already done don't permit this. And then when it comes to the TERS itself, this area is not what the TERS Chapter 311 of the tax code was designed to accomplish. It was designed to accomplish redevelopment and development in blighted areas that, but for the public dollars, had no chance. Okay, that's not what we have here.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to ask that clarification.
Jennifer Gary.
Hi, thank you for having us here tonight. Sorry, I have notes, long notes. I live at 31 Wilderness Trail. This parkway going across mine and my neighbor's property is disturbing beyond belief. We purchased this home in 2020 for our children to have places to roam and trees to look at. Trees are gone. We get that, okay? But my children are not safe anymore. They're not safe to go in the park. We have trucks going up and down. They can't even get on their school bus at this point. They're being blocked in. I can't even get out of my driveway because I'm being blocked in. I can't imagine what this parkway will do to everyone that has to use that road to get in or out. That's the only way to get in or out. It will bring crime. Crime, I mean, any kind of thoroughfare that runs to a freeway, statistics will tell you it brings crime. It's unnecessary traffic, like I said. Right now, we're talking to a contractor about building a 6-foot fence in my front yard to protect my children from all of this. From the people developing, the contractors on the other side. I mean, I have to block my own beautiful view to protect my children. Safety, like I said, the school bus can't even get through right now. They're having to stop traffic in this. They've already asked me, where my children can go. My children get picked up at the end of the driveway because I have a 300-foot driveway. There's nowhere else for them to go. So what are they going to do? Stand on the side of a parkway waiting for their bus? That's ridiculous. And I'm not the only one. There's multiple people. All my neighbors are here today. It's not okay. Mr. Tanos, you have children. Would you want your children to play in their front yard with all this parkway and traffic going through? You back up to the parkway. It's not facing it. You don't have to go through it to get out of your own home. If you're adamant about this parkway, why isn't it proposed that it runs through the middle of the development at an angle? We purchased our property without any knowledge of this path. Residents of his development could be aware of that when they purchase theirs. Depreciation of our property value. I mean, there's no room right there. It's going to depreciate our property if it goes in front of our the parkway goes right across the front. How are we going to get that money back? Just as you spoke about residential facing a busy road and passing the rezoning of a residential property to commercial just a little while ago, this is exactly what you're proposing to do to Wilderness Trail. Each and every one of you is supposed to be the voice and leadership of our community. We have voted you in by our community. Who in this community will this parkway benefit? Look around. Our community, look at everyone that's here, that showed up today. Doesn't want it. Allowing tiers for this development is a disservice to our community. And if you want to know what we're talking about here, these are our homes right here along this parkway. There are 7 of us. This one here is going to have the parkway on 2 sides of it. They are aware that it was eventually maybe going to come on 1 side, never on 2 sides. All of these properties here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties here, all in their front yards. Right here, right next to their bedroom that they're building right now. It's not fair. I would hope that since y'all are for the community that you would take that into consideration and not pass these tiers, please, or this parkway, and find another way. Thank you.
Robert Talton.
Good evening. My name's Robert Talton. I'm basically going to reiterate everything they said, just probably not near as eloquent. My family and I, or actually my wife and I, moved here 23 years ago. I didn't know anything about the city of Friendswood at all before we ever had children. We got a good deal on a house. So it looked like a safe place to live. We took a gamble. We bought the house. We fell in love with it. We love it here. We've met a lot of great friends. There's a lot of great people here. Then we find out about the school district. It's a great school district. We decided to have kids. I have 2 out of my 3 kids have started kindergarten and graduated high school in FISD, and I'm proud of that. And I love it. I have a third that's 11, and I want him to graduate from here too. But when he was 3 months old, he suffered a traumatic brain injury. So he has a bunch of issues, and when he started getting larger or bigger to deal with, it's a lot. His bedroom was upstairs. We had a 2-story house on Charleston. We decided to buy a piece of property at the end of a quiet street to build an ADA accessible home for our child. We found Wilderness Trail. There's hardly any streets like that in Friendswood, period. And if there is, the properties, they don't come up often, and if they do, they're gone real quick. I happen to be so lucky, and I call this a God thing in my mind. The day the guy put the sign out in his yard, it was for sale by owner. It was about this big. And I would drop my girls off at school, drive down the streets to where I wanted to buy property, and happen to see it that day, call the gentleman, and that was it. We got exactly what we wanted, where we wanted, to build what we needed for our kids. I'm sorry, I'm just passionate about my kids. We didn't know anything about the parkway until we got halfway through construction, and of course I freaked out, came down to the city, started asking you guys, where is this road gonna go through? Because I sure as heck didn't want it going in front of my house. And I was told it was gonna probably take just the path of least resistance would be across Wilderness Trails, not down it. And that really not to concern myself about it because the city didn't have funding for it anyways, and these were just all lines on a map and they didn't really mean much. But at no time did it show it turning in front of my house because I wouldn't have built there. It just, and then a couple of years later, I guess, the Proposition D came up and it was voted down and I thought we were done with it. Here we are again. So I agree. I know that it's gonna happen eventually. The parkway is gonna come through and I'm not gonna fight y'all on that. But I am going to fight you if it turns down my street in front of my house, because that is not why I bought. I'm the second to the last house on a dead-end street, and I bought at the end of a dead-end street to build what I needed for my family for a reason, to get away from traffic, to make sure they have a safe place to grow up, and putting a parkway in front of my house, that's just not an option, especially when there's better options, in my opinion, by going across Wilderness Trails and then going wherever you need to go to get to the other side. We don't even know where that's at, as far as I know. There hasn't been a plan to take it from there further to get into Pearland. So it just doesn't make any sense to me why turn down Wilderness Trails in the first place when there's not even a place to hook to on the other side. It's all of it right now can be stopped and cut across Tanos's property somewhere else where it doesn't affect all the families that are here. We don't need to look at that. The only way that I can see that it benefits, or the only person that I think that it would benefit turning down a street is actually Mr. Tanos, because from what I understand, you're putting your house far away from the parkway on the property that you purchased, so you don't have to look at it, and we do. But he's choosing to live there, and he hasn't built a house yet, so he actually has a choice. We don't. I don't know. I've got a million things I want to say going through my head. I'm not a great public speaker, but I'm begging you guys, don't approve this. Not the way it is. It's not right. It's not safe. It's not good for us. It's not good for our families. I'm not happy about all the trees that were cut down over there. I don't understand why that was done when there's no plan. I mean, Woodlands, Kingwood, they all build, they don't go level every single tree on 40 acres and then start developing it. There was deer over there. I used to feed them. They're all gone. I don't know. I've got, like I said, I've got so many things in my head to say, but I'm fired up. I'm just begging y'all, don't let this happen the way it is right now. There's a way, and I'm willing to work with the man, but not in front of my house. I'm not anti-parkway. I'm anti-parkway in front of my house. All right. Just, if y'all were me, what would you do?
Blair Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Blair Johnson. I'm Chris's wife. I'm also building at 36 Wilderness Trail. Thank you all again for the opportunity tonight to speak. I think most of my neighbors have covered what we're here about today, but you know, you guys said so many things at the beginning that I just wanted to recognize as someone who's not from Friendswood, but someone who's been told about Friendswood because I'm married to someone that grew up here and that loves this town, as to why we needed to get here as quickly as we could, build our house and raise our kids here, and that's what we've been doing. And I heard about the small town mentality and the people looking out for each other, and that's certainly what we've experienced with our great neighbors that we've met so far. And you all have talked about, you know, early today about all the things you're doing in the city and working with all the people, the elderly, the children, and all of that. And that's certainly what we wanted to come into a place like that and to have the feel of the small town, as Councilman Matranga mentioned, and I so look forward to that. Unfortunately, that feel goes away when a 4-lane parkway pops up next to your house. I can't express to you enough. I think you felt the emotion of everybody so far tonight of what that feels like when it's your home. You know, I know it's a map, and I know on this we're just the stripes, but that's our home, that's our kids. That's everything that we've worked for so many years to get to be in this spot and to get to be in this town that we're so looking forward to be a part of. This TERS to us, I am someone that goes down every rabbit hole to get as much information as I possibly can. I submitted a public information request on April 22nd to try to understand what this TERS is about. I think it's new to a lot of people. I understand this is only the second one that this city has looked at doing, but I didn't get any information. I'd like to know more about it, but if it's meant for the Parkway, which is what I understood tonight from Mr. Kabiri, that it is meant to expand the Parkway. I think you've heard how we feel about that, that it's just not appropriate to bring such a large major thoroughfare by our homes through this residential area. As you can see from the map, everything, well, actually you probably can't see from your map, but you know, there are things close to 528 that are commercial. Everything else is zoned residential. This is a residential area. So to understand why something would be used under the tax code to be considered underdeveloped or blighted, or when you have beautiful homes and availability for more residential growth, that just didn't make any sense to me, which is why I wanted to get more information. On its face, we've seen no preliminary financing plan. We haven't seen anything that would allow you at this point to even approve a TERS. So I understand there's another hearing coming. I suspect there will be more information that I'd like to learn. But at this point, there's absolutely nothing that would permit a parkway through our residential area to allow this residential area to change to support a TERS that would be needed for this type of parkway. So we would ask that you would deny any such requests. Thank you for your time.
Randy Hale.
I'm back. And that's all tough acts to follow down. I understand that I can ask y'all questions and y'all can answer me back during the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The TERS is.
Sorry.
Mr. Hale.
Go ahead.
The public hearing is to receive public input.
Receive public input, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, y'all had exchanges with other people, so.
We had a council member ask a question of a presenter to
Okay,
clarify.
So that's how the exchange happens, is if y'all ask the question.
Yes, sir. You present, and we'll listen.
Okay, fair enough. I just didn't know exactly how to go about this. So anyway, TERS. Up until just a few months ago, none of us knew what a TERS was for the most part. I had a lot of questions, and you know, PID bonds. You know, I thought that was a bond that the city issued, and Trish corrected me on that and gave me some guidance on where to look. I've had discussions with some other people about it, but that triggered me to do a lot of homework on it and a lot of studying. And yeah, the thoroughfare is public knowledge. I think it's a road to nowhere. The excuse of it being a hurricane evacuation route, no. For development, commercial development somewhere down the road, it goes through the Dixie Farm Road where, you know, there's where Pearland Parkway terminates. I have no idea if y'all have discussed what, when, and how that connection might come about. But I'll reiterate, I don't see where you can find any blight in this area. The but-for doesn't seem to exist. I did want to find out if there's any comments on how much the PID bonds would be for this one. We've got TERS number 1 going on the City Place development, which is great, good, and wonderful. Reclaim my time. I saw that on TV once. On PID number 1, or on TERS number 1, there are PID bonds and PID assessments, but as I understand it, we don't know what the PID assessments are going to be against the property owners. And I've asked, how's the cash flow on this PID TERS interaction going to work? And I know PID or TERS number 1 can be up to $100 million, but We're guessing it's gonna be about 53, but we think that's probably a little high, but we don't know long-term everything that's included in it. And this TERS, you didn't even offer any financial information up front, as has been pointed out already. So is it really time to vote on this yet? Is it a little early? I would pose that question to you because it doesn't seem like any of us have enough information to make a good decision on that. I've got 50 questions, but I guess I'm not going to get to ask them, so I'll just leave my comments at that and ask, do any of you have any questions of me? I would take that as a no.
Just to clarify.
Please don't pass this TERS tonight.
Just to clarify, as I mentioned earlier, this is simply a public hearing. There is no vote on the council agenda for this TERS.
I beg your pardon. I thought I read on the agenda that you would be voting on this tonight.
No, sir.
Okay, good to know. So we will get more information before TERS 2 hearing takes place.
Yes, sir.
It'll all be public. Great. Thank you very much.
Margaret Pickle.
Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, getting older, can't see anything now. So my family moved here to Friendswood 27 years ago for 3 reasons. Great schools, nice quiet streets, and acreage to pursue our hobbies. My daughter loved horses, so we got acreage. I am a Texas Parks and Wildlife state wildlife rehabilitator, as well as a U.S. Fish and Wildlife state or federal rehabilitator. So we had the acreage that I could build the big bird cages on, and I'm glad to say that down Wilderness Trail, a lot of the birds that are there over the last 27 years are because I've released them. We've recreated the bluebird population, which is wonderful. So that is why we moved here to Friendswood and why it's helped so much. Now, everybody did say, try to keep facts, don't get emotional. Sorry, I have to take just a side note because everybody has mentioned the trees. Trees eventually can grow back and that's great, but it was very hard on me watching all the generations of birds that are nesting right now and those trees come down. So I'm finished with that, got that out of my system. My husband is so tired of me griping about it. He said, please just go to council and get this out of your system. So that is what I've done. So he will appreciate that part. So we no longer can ride horses down Wilderness Trail. I get it. You know, we all have, you know, the end of the street had a new subdivision. It's great. They make great neighbors. Some of the teenagers do drive too fast, but that's what we have to deal with. So we no longer ride horses. Because of all of the development and with the idea of the road coming through eventually somewhere, I have not renewed my state and federal permits for rehabilitation. That really hurts me because I've been doing this for 40 years. It's my own personal choice, but I just can't release things when there's no place for those birds to really go. So the idea of the parkway really bothers me. I have been with its history all the way back. Kathy told you the history. You all know the history of all of this, so I'm not going to go through all that. But I do remember in 2006 when one of the council members said, well, it's going to be years before this road comes through. I think now is the time that it's trying to get through, but it's doing it with a tourist tax incentives. So we were always able to vote down the road, and now maybe this is another way of getting it to do. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is how I have some questions too, not for you to answer, just for you to consider. I do hope that detention is kept to each individual property with the tours going on. I hope that detention is not pushed around because, as you can tell, the creek, Sugar Creek is there. My yard floods in Sugar Creek with just a little bit of rain. So I hope all the detention is not directed into the creek. I know that's a drainage district issue and we've been working with them on that. The proposed alignment of this new parkway, or the Friendswood Parkway, does fall directly on top of Wilderness Trail and addresses number 25 through 35. So with that, I just wonder, has the runoff for that road been addressed? I understand 2 lanes of the parkway would build on the 40-acre property, and 2 lanes would be the original Wilderness Trail. So if that's the case, what happens to my address? And I know that may sound like a little thing, but am I gonna now be Friendswood Parkway, or do I get to keep Wilderness Trail? What about my trash pickup? What about the, well, and then there's also the, oh, I wrote it down. There's 2 water mains on there. All the fire hydrants would need to be redone. There's a gas main, a sewer main. What happens to those while they're fixing those? Are we without services? Do we have temporary services? So those are all the kind of things that I've not been able to ask anyone to know, but I just kind of want to know about the public's work part of that. I don't think any of us oppose the development. That's happened. Developments happen all over the place. I just want us to all work together on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. There being no one else desiring to speak on this item, I now close this public hearing. And we will have another public hearing next month on this topic.
Correct.
Item 9, City Manager's report, presented by City Manager Murad Kabiri.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. A few items to report. First off, I'd like to recognize our Director of Engineering, Hill Arias, who recently spoke at a Texas Water Board conference regarding the strategic plans they've been working on with regard to their water program. He claims on his slide in the back of the screen that he saved us $30 million. I will be looking for that $30 million later, Hill. Moving on to the second item, if a number of you, or I don't know if a number of you have gone to the Friendswood Library in recent weeks, our very own Matthew Diaz in the Parks Department was recognized, or he has his artwork being recognized as a small exhibit. Those 3 pictures, I apologize for the crude nature that I took that on my cell phone, so they don't do the pictures justice, but Matt's a parks maintenance worker for our Parks Department, has been with us for a number of years. I didn't realize how talented of an artist he is. There's a number of paintings in oil-based, watercolor, and pencil sketch, just beyond unbelievable. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize his work. The next item is I would like to recognize EMS Chief Lisa Camp, who is recently recognized as one of the leaders in she's receiving the Vanguard Award in Emergency Medical Services for one of the outstanding leaders in our community and in the nation in this regard. So thank you, Chief Camp. Moving on, this month is Building Safety Month. Our folks in community development are working on a number of initiatives to get the word out as to what building safety is, not just with building codes, but also with fire codes. We thank their service as well as our fire marshal service in recognizing the importance of building safety in our community and the preservation of our buildings. Next item, the city's Memorial Day ceremony will be held on Monday, May 27th at 9:30 at the Veterans Memorial next to City Hall that was donated to us a number of years back. I apologize, I don't know who the speaker is going to be off the top of my head, but as always, it's a somber occasion. I encourage you to bring your family out with you to hear a speech by one of our local veterans.
Mr. John Sasson.
John Sasson. Okay.
Former Marine.
Fantastic.
Yes. So, one of our own.
Please come out. It is a wonderful event, and you'll see a lot of America's finest out there that have served our country, and we take a moment to recognize those that have served and lost their lives on behalf of our great country.
I thought you were always a Marine, not a former Marine.
The next item.
How many Marines in the audience right now? Raise your hand if you're a Marine. Right. I appreciate you standing up for the Marines. That's awesome.
National Public Works Week is coming up May 19th through the 25th. Similar to Building Safety Month, this is an important occasion to recognize our fine men and women in the Public Works Department for everything they do. I know it probably goes unnoticed, but every morning when you get up and you turn on your faucet and there's clean water coming out of it, it's thanks to those folks, fine folks. So we encourage everyone to recognize National Public Works Week later this month. Also, this past month, we held our annual Spring Sparkle event. It was very well attended. We had 642 cars come in through the community. As you can see on the numbers there, they collected almost 73.5 tons of garbage. Star Services collected 3.3 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot of refrigerant, though. These are things that can't just simply go into the landfill. Shred It collected 6,800 pounds of paper that they shredded, which is equivalent to 58,000 trees, which is unbelievable. And then the garage sale for items that were donated raised about $1,400 for our Keep Friendswood Beautiful. So thank you, James, and to KFB for everything they did for this event. Lastly, actually I have two more items. We did have our street sales reauthorization sales tax this past weekend. As you've heard, the measure passed nearly 3-1. We're very appreciative of this community for supporting this. This is dollars that are collected by sales tax, not only from our residents, but anybody that shops in Friendswood. And it amounts to about $2.3 million a year in street maintenance dollars. So we're grateful for that. One last item, our police department's been busy this last month. Our very own Officer Ives was the nominee for Officer of the Year for the 50 Club of Galveston County, and that luncheon was today. Did he get selected?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, he got selected. And if you've noticed, you've seen a number of our officers at a variety of events this last month. I'd like to recognize two of them. There was an auction item for breakfast with the chief, and as you can imagine, they served donuts in the PD, which is not a surprise. And if that wasn't enough, this last week we had coffee with a cop over at Whataburger, and it was a great opportunity for folks to come out and visit with our fine men and women in blue. So thank you.
Could I just add an item on to your topic on the PD?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to invite former Mayor Dave Smith up to present a check.
My apologies.
You know, anytime we get to receive a check on behalf of PD, I think it's worth taking a minute.
Well, anytime we can hand Murad money instead of him taking it away. So tonight I'm here on behalf of Friendswood Rotary Club's foundation. It's a 501c3 that was created right before our friend Harvey came in. It was the same organization that was able to raise $200,000 and give that $200,000 right back out to flood victims in Friendswood. But this time we're here to give Murad a check for $21,000 to pay for some ballistic shields for Josh's guys out in the field. We tell them how much we appreciate them and the work that they do by funding this.
Thank you.
Well, I have to mention two people that were instrumental in the fundraising efforts to put these funds together. One of them is a former school district employee, longtime Rotarian. His name is Charlie Baumgartner. And the other person was Kevin Holland. So I want to thank them for all of their efforts in making this happen. And Josh, I'll let you do the honors.
Thanks, Mayor. That's something I hope you never have to use, Josh, but it's an important tool to have available.
Well, you see how the money flows.
Wow. Let the record show that our soon-to-be minted finance director received the check.
So I hear a budget amendment coming. Item 10, but
we consider a break for a few minutes.
you need a break? Sure. Let's take a 5-minute break. I say 5 minutes, it always extends to 10. So be back at 7:25, please. All right, folks. Got a few more items to cover here. Item 10, business items. Consider approving a contract for the Stevenson Park Pavilion Restroom Remodel Project with Construction Masters of Houston through the Choice Partners Cooperative. What am I hearing?
I'll take the motion. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, item 11, restructuring plan. Discuss the city manager's restructuring plan for departments of the city. Rod's
Yes.
going to give us an overview, and then 11B and 11C will address that.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Letty, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. As you well know, I've been discussing with y'all succession planning and opportunities to allow for professional growth and development of various employees throughout the organization. We've had the unfortunate experience the last couple of years that we've lost good employees to other agencies, both public and private sector employees. And though I don't fault them, it's hard to keep talent and then find opportunities for employees to grow. So I had worked with a plan with council on restructuring a number of the division of responsibilities within the organization, and later on this evening you will be voting on the creation of a deputy city manager position, the installment of 2 assistant city manager positions, a director of finance position, a director of municipal court, and a director of communications. These 6 promotions do not include any new full-time equivalent positions, so we are not adding to our staff at all. This is simply a reassignment of work responsibilities and a division of labor within the overall organization. I'm still responsible for each of the departments, but this sort of levels out the playing fields a little bit in terms of the number of direct reports. So does Mayor and Council have any questions before we move on to the next item?
11B, consider an ordinance amending the city's general budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 by approving Budget Amendment 6, which in part establishes the Communications Department and the Municipal Court Department, adopts the city manager's restructuring plan for the administrative services of the city, and provides for supplemental appropriation and or transfer of certain funds. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions from Rod? All in favor? Item 11C, consider concurring with the city manager's appointments to the following positions: Deputy City Manager, Assistant City Managers, the Director of Finance Department, the Director of Communications Department, and the Director of Municipal Court.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And before y'all take a vote on it, I'd like to recognize Stephen Ray, our new Deputy City Manager, Katina Hampton, our new Assistant City Manager, Letty Brish, our new Assistant City Manager, Pat Reifel, our new Director of Municipal Court, Rhonda Blasquez, our new Director of Finance, and Glenda Faulkner, our new Director of Communications. So there's a lot to be applauded there, but
yeah, there is. All right.
Your first 1 minute has been fine on the job.
I hope this passes now that you've
I do as well. I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't I?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Good. All right. Item 12, proposed resolutions and ordinances. Consider on second and final reading an ordinance repealing Chapter 86 Utilities, Article 2, Water, Division 1, generally of the Friendswood City Code, and amending Chapter 86 Utilities, Article 2, Water, and Friendswood City Code by adding a new division to be numbered and entitled Division 1, generally, to conform to the updated drought contingency and water emergency plan and to promote the responsible use of water throughout the city. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this one?
A little clarification on it. If
Yes,
we
sir.
don't pass this this new, are we in violation of state regulations or TCEQ, or is there any water quality issues that come up if we don't pass this, or is this just something we're doing for ourselves?
So it's an indirect tie. So the state of Texas, TCQ, requires that we adopt a drought contingency plan, which we have done. This simply codifies it in an ordinance, so if we have violators to it, we have some mechanism by which to get compliance.
I gotcha.
And we have voted on this once already. Second reading, so.
Yeah, I just missed it.
All in favor? Okay. Consent agenda. I now need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? We are adjourned.